Charles said 15 things about Diana that he thought would never leave the room. They all left the room, and everyone leads back to Camilla. Number 1, he said it to a biographer and didn't think it through. Number 15, he said it almost 8 years after Diana was in the ground. Engagement interviews, private letters, valets who quit, a tape in the British archive, bodyguards who kept notes. Charles spent 30 years protecting Camilla with silence. His own words betrayed him instead. Every quote is dated. Every quote is sourced. Every quote ends with the same woman's name. These are 15 things Charles said about Diana that prove Camilla was the problem. By number 15, you'll understand why the palace prayed you would never hear them in order. Number 1, the sentence that wasn't about her. 1985, 4 years into the marriage. Charles sits down with royal biographer Penny Junor and says 8 words. I want to feel proud of my wife. 8 words. Sounds sweet. But here is the problem. Charles was not talking about Diana. He was describing Camilla, the mother of his 2 sons. The most photographed woman on earth at that moment was not the wife he wanted to feel proud of. Camilla was. Penny Junor printed the line. The palace never denied it. Junor would go on to write an entire biography of Camilla herself in 2017, where she confirmed the same dynamic. Diana read that 1985 quote and knew exactly who Charles meant. And that was 1985. The one before it came 4 years earlier. Charles said it to the cameras on his own engagement day. Number 2, the engagement day insult. February 24th, 1981. Charles and Diana stand on the lawn of Buckingham Palace for their official engagement interview. ITN's cameras are rolling. The reporter asks the obvious question, "Are you in love?" Diana's answer is immediate, "Of course." Charles pauses. Then he says 4 words that Diana would replay in her head for the rest of her life. Whatever in love means. The clip is on YouTube. The clip is in the BBC archive. The clip is in every documentary made about her since. Charles said it on the day they announced the engagement, in front of the cameras, with Diana standing right next to him. 8 years later, on the Camillagate tape, the world learned who he was actually in love with. 4 words in public. Number 3 is the word he used about Diana on the very tape that destroyed his reputation. Number 3, the word he called her on the tape. December 18th, 1989. Charles is at a friend's country house. Camilla is at her home in Wiltshire. A stranger with a radio scanner is recording every word. During the 6-minute conversation, Charles describes his marriage to Diana in 1 word: exhausting. He calls his wife, the mother of his 2 sons, exhausting. 3 years later, on January 17, 1993, the transcript ran in the Sunday People and the Sunday Mirror. Millions read the word. Diana read it. Her mother read it. Prince William, 10 years old at the time, read it. Charles called Diana exhausting on a tape that is now on Wikipedia, in every royal biography, in every Diana documentary on streaming services. That word is permanent. Charles said that when he thought only Camilla could hear him. 5 years later, he said the next one to 13 million viewers. Number 4, the confession that quit his valet. June 29, 1994. 13 million British viewers watch ITV Live. Charles sits across from Jonathan Dimbleby. Dimbleby asks the question the nation has waited 13 years to hear. "Were you faithful to your wife?" Charles answers, "Yes. Until it became irretrievably broken down, us both having tried." 11 words. The first time a future King of England admitted adultery on live television. The day after the broadcast, Charles's private secretary, Richard Aylard, confirmed at a press conference the woman was Camilla Parker Bowles. Staff at Highgrove resigned in the weeks that followed. Diana watched the broadcast from Kensington Palace. The confession stayed in the archive. 4 down. The next 3 are worse, because Charles said them when he thought no one was listening. Number 5, there's no chemistry between us. Per royal biographer Tina Brown in The Diana Chronicles, published in 2007 and now sold in 17 languages. Before the 1981 wedding, Charles told friends about his young fiancée the 5 words that should have stopped the ceremony. There's no chemistry between us. 5 words. said to private friends at a dinner, repeated years later by those same friends to Tina Brown, who printed them in a book that sold more than 1 million copies. Charles knew. Before Diana walked down the aisle at St. Paul's on July 29, 1981, in front of 750 million viewers, Charles knew there was no chemistry. He married her anyway, because the job required a wife, and the private life already had one. Tina Brown edited Vanity Fair, then The New Yorker. She does not print sentences she cannot source, and she printed that one. That was before the wedding. Number 6 came after. Charles wrote it in his own hand. Number 6, the word he wrote in private. August 1986. 5 years into the marriage. William is 4. Harry is almost 2. Charles sits down at his desk at Highgrove and writes a private letter to a friend about his marriage to Diana. According to his own authorized biographer, Jonathan Dimbleby, the letter contained one phrase that explains the next 10 years. How awful incompatibility is and how dreadfully destructive it can be. Dreadfully destructive. Not difficult, not unhappy, destructive. Charles did not describe Diana as a wife he was failing. He described her as a force that was destroying him. Incompatibility is the word you use when you want to blame the other person without naming yourself. And the woman Charles was writing those words about was taking William and Harry to school every morning while their father called the marriage that made them destructive. Destructive. That is the word Charles chose in private. 6 years later, he built the public version, number 7. The word he put in the statement, December 1992. Prime Minister John Major stands at the dispatch box in the House of Commons and reads the formal separation announcement. Charles personally edited the text the night before. The key sentence. Charles and Diana were different people with very different interests. Cold, corporate. The language of a merger gone bad, not the language of a husband. Diana was in Kensington Palace when the announcement was read. She was 31 years old. Her marriage had just been dissolved in a government statement her husband wrote himself. And Charles described her as a business partner with different interests. The word wife did not appear once. Think of Diana the night that statement was read, the television on, William at boarding school, Harry asleep down the corridor, the words her husband had written about her coming out of the mouth of the Prime Minister of Great Britain. Number 8. A great friend of mine. June 29, 1994. Same Dimbleby documentary. 10 minutes after the adultery confession. Dimbleby asks Charles directly about his relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles. Charles does not call her his mistress. He does not call her his lover. He does not call her the woman he had confessed to adultery with 10 minutes earlier. He calls her a dear friend and a great friend of mine. And in the next breath, he says she was only one of a large number of friends. Diana was his wife. Camilla was one of a large number of friends. Those are the words Charles chose on camera, in front of 13 million people. The lie was so flat, his own private secretary had to hold a press conference the next day to confirm Camilla was more than that. Charles could not even say her name without downgrading her. Picture Diana that summer. She was already planning her own response. The public downgrade was what pushed her toward Panorama. Number 9. The name he refused to say. According to accounts from members of Diana's household staff during her marriage, Charles had a habit of using Diana's mother's full, formal name in conversation. Frances Shan Kidd. Not Diana's mother, not your mother, not my mother-in-law. The full legal name of a stranger. In front of Diana, in front of staff. The same name a judge would use for a witness. Patrick Jepson, Diana's private secretary for 8 years, wrote about Charles's coldness toward the Spencer family in his 1999 memoir, Shadows of a Princess. The book is still in print. The palace never sued. A husband who refuses to call his wife's mother by a warm name is a husband who has already filed the wife under temporary. The formal name was the Tell. Charles was already rehearsing the language of the divorce papers, and here is the part the checklist cannot show you. Those who knew Diana best described a period in the mid-1990s when her relationship with her own mother cooled. We can picture what that silence meant. a daughter who could not explain what was being done to her without making it worse. Number 10. He'd rather be with her. Ken Wharfe was Diana's personal protection officer for nearly 7 years, a sworn Scotland Yard officer, armed, standing 3 feet from Diana in every hotel, every royal tour, every private dinner. His job was to keep the mother of the future king alive. In his 2002 memoir, Diana Closely Guarded Secret, Wharfe described a hotel argument he overheard during the marriage. Charles's own words, according to the man paid to guard Diana's life, were 5 words. He'd rather be with her. Wharfe wrote it down at the time. He published it years later. Scotland Yard never disputed it. Charles's office never sued. The book is still in print. The audiobook is on Audible. Charles can write 1,000 Christmas messages about family unity. He cannot unpublish the memoir of the officer who stood 3 feet from his wife. Number 11 came from the woman who wrote the definitive Diana book. Number 11, the campaign to call her unstable. Pertina Brown in the Diana Chronicles. In the months before Diana's November 1995 Panorama interview, Charles and his staff ran a coordinated briefing campaign against Diana. The campaign painted Diana as unstable. Charles let the language circulate. Charles let it harden. When a husband allows the word unstable to travel unchallenged about the mother of the future king, he is not a bystander. He is the source. The accusation is documented. The campaign is named. The timeline is in print. Here is what makes it worse. Diana was not unstable. Diana was right. Charles was having an affair with the woman Diana had been warning people about for years. Charles let the unstable word travel to protect Camilla. He let it travel in the same year his wife was preparing to expose him on the BBC. Picture Diana reading her own newspapers that autumn. The campaign her husband was running against her in the same pages she read over breakfast. She did not tell William. She did not tell Harry. She called Martin Bashir instead. Number 12. The sentence that ended every reconciliation. Late 1990s. Charles's public relations advisor, Mark Bolland, is in a meeting about the future of the Camilla relationship. According to Bolland's own later writing and multiple royal biographies of the period, Charles says 3 words the palace has never been able to walk back. Camilla is non-negotiable. Not the children, not the monarchy, not the memory of Diana. Camilla. Those 3 words mean Charles had already made the choice. Camilla was the destination. Everything else was negotiable. When a man tells his own staff that his mistress is non-negotiable, he is not conflicted. He is committed to the wrong woman. Mark Bolland went on to write a newspaper column. He wrote about those years. The sentence is in the public record. But here is what makes the Bolland sentence even darker. Charles had been making this choice for years. He had made it years earlier in August 1992, when his wife needed him most. Number 13, The Silence After Squidgygate, August 23, 1992. The Sun publishes the transcript of a tape between Diana and James Gilby. The press calls it Squidgygate. The headlines run for weeks. Diana is humiliated on the front page of every British tabloid. Her private phone calls are auctioned by the minute on a premium telephone line. 60,000 people pay to listen. And in the middle of all of it, Charles says nothing. No public statement of support, no defense of his wife, no press conference, no quote to a friendly journalist. Nothing. The husband, who would later confess to adultery on national television to protect Camilla, could not find one sentence to defend Diana when the woman he had married was being publicly humiliated. Silence is a choice. In a marriage, silence is an answer, Charles answered. And the tabloids understood the answer perfectly. Within weeks, the same papers that had been protecting Diana for a decade started running pieces describing her as unstable. Charles let them. And the next one is the verdict from the man who loved her most. Number 14, the brothers' verdict at Westminster Abbey, September 6, 1997. Earl Charles Spencer stands at the lectern of Westminster Abbey in front of 2,000 mourners and a global television audience of 2.5 billion people. Diana's coffin is 6 feet behind him. Charles is in the front row. William and Harry are sitting between their father and their grandmother. Earl Spencer begins his eulogy, and every sentence he speaks is aimed directly at the man in the front row. Earl Spencer says Diana was the very essence of compassion, of duty, of style, of beauty. He says she was a symbol of selfless humanity. He says she needed no royal title to continue generating her particular brand of magic. Then comes the sentence that made Charles flinch on camera. Earl Spencer pledges, in front of God and 2.5 billion witnesses, that the Spencer family will protect William and Harry's souls so they cannot be immersed by duty and tradition the way their mother was. That last sentence is the verdict. The Spencer family was promising to protect Diana's children from the Windsor family. Charles is sitting 6 feet from the coffin. Earl Spencer never names him. He never has to. The whole speech is on the BBC archive. The whole speech is on YouTube. 2.5 billion people heard the verdict in real time. Charles heard it loudest of all. 14 things, all said or aloud while Diana was alive. Number 15 is the one Charles saved for Camilla after Diana was already gone. Number 15, the 2 words. He saved for Camilla. April 9th, 2005, Windsor Guildhall. Charles and Camilla finally marry after 35 years. Almost 8 years after Diana was buried at Althorpe. 800 guests at the Windsor Castle reception. William and Harry in attendance. During his toast, Charles stands and turns to Camilla. According to multiple news reports from that day, he says 9 words in front of the room. "My darling Camilla, I can't believe you married me." My darling. In 15 years of marriage to Diana, in every public speech, in every royal broadcast, in every printed message, Charles never called Diana my darling in public. Not on their wedding day, not after William was born, not after Harry was born, not after any royal tour, not ever. Almost 8 years after Diana was dead, Charles used in one sentence the exact words he had refused to give Diana in 15 years of marriage. The Globe and Mail reported the quote, "Camilla was in tears." The world watched him say to Camilla what he never said to Diana. Those 2 words are the entire story. Charles said 15 things about Diana. He saved 2 words for Camilla, and those 2 words are the verdict on everything. 15 things. From a 1985 sentence about feeling proud of his wife, meaning Camilla, to 2 words he said in 2005 after Diana was in the ground. Charles told the world who he chose, out loud, on the record, in his own letters, in the Camillagate transcript, in the Dimbleby confession, in his own wedding speech. But what Charles said is one thing, what Camilla is about to lose is another. Because the day King Charles dies, Camilla loses 20 things in 24 hours. The title, the home, the staff, the money, the tiaras. Click the video on your screen right now.